Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR today for Thursday morning, May the 6th, 2021. The man they call Meathead, Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew. How are you feeling after a big night in AEW last night?
I'm feeling fantastic. And if you would like to know the results of AEW last night, all you really have to do is rewind it to yesterday morning show where I believe that I told the listening audience exactly what ended up happening on AEW.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll have to check back in the archives. But speaking of going back in the archives, I know we've told you about our sponsor, but we're going to tell you again this morning, Matthew, who's taking care of PWR today.
That's going to be the fine folks over at Collar and Elbow who are more than ready, willing, and able to get you equipped for all of those clothing needs that you might have going into these summer months.
What's the promo code?
I want to say if you mosey your internet browser over to Collar and Elbow and you enter the promo code Linda K, and see the first thing you want to do is you want to put an L there, and then after that you want to hit the I button.
Oh boy.
And then the N, and then the D, and then the A, and then the K, the letter K, and then A, and then Y. So it says Linda K.
It's over. Huh? So you got the promo code in there finally.
That's gonna save you some money. Save you some money that you can do. You can donate to a fine assortment of charities, or just do really whatever you want to with that money you save. I don't care what you do with it. I'm not gonna ask you, hey, you save this money off of Collar and Elbow. How are you spending that money? It's your life, man.
Well, for those that don't know, pre-show, as Matthew and I are talking, and he couldn't figure out how to answer the phone, I said, it is 2021, and you're not 90-plus years old, so you should be able to operate some technology. Well, apparently Matthew Thomas is that old couple that you saw on the internet way back where, the old guy's chewing the gum and goes, hey, you want to fool around? And they got to be in their 70s, which is cool and all, but I think they knew they were being recorded because they couldn't figure out how to turn the camera on, and the camera recorded the whole thing. So
I need one of those special phones that they advertise. You can get those kind of simplified phones that just kind of take a lot of the guesswork out. I need to look in. I can't think of what they're called. It's like a one-word name for it, and I can't think of it. But
phone.
Anyway, yeah. I need to get one of those.
To go back to our show, The League, before we get into the wrestling here, you know what app I want on my phone the most? Phone. That's the app I want. All right, let's talk about AEW. This is going to be an AEW-specific show here because last night, big show, Blood and Guts on TNT. But first, let's talk about something that we started last week, and we're going to continue to do every week. Let's talk about the AEW rankings for the men's division, for the heavyweight championship. The champion, Kenny Omega. Number one contender, we called it Orange Cassidy, undefeated in 2021 at 8-0. Number 2, 5-0 was Pac. Number 3 with a loss, 6-1, Jon Moxley. Number 4, Brian Cage at 5-1, and falling all the way to number 5 after his loss to Brian Cage is the Hangman, Adam Page at 8-1. Now I find this a little funny because last week Hangman Adam Page was the number one contender at 8-0. Cassidy was 7-0. He beat. Brian Cage beat Hangman Adam Page, moved up to 4th, but Hangman falls all the way to 5th. If this were hockey, for example, wins costing, giving you 2 points and a loss being, 1 point, what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? How did he fall to 5?
They just said, you know what, we want to kind of get him out of the title picture for a little while because Kenny Omega's got a lengthy run left just yet with this belt, and because Page and Omega, that's where the money's at. When you can start packing them in, which it sounds like, pack.
Well, you're packing them in, you're squeezing them in, whatever you got to do.
Yep. When you can start, really kind of getting your momentum back with AEW and taking it on the road again, that Omega Page, that's going to be your ticket there. So I think that's coming before the end of the year. I think we're probably. What is it? What month is it? It is May. So, I think we're probably 5-6 months away from that.
Okay. All right. So, and then again, we're going to skip ahead a little bit and talk about what happened last night in Blood and Guts. With this particular ranking, Kenny Omega cutting the promo at the corner of the Blood and Guts cage, saying that he's going to watch next week's match between Orange Cassidy and Pac. The winner of the match will take on Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing at the end of May. Who do you got in that?
I think it was pretty much a given after what we saw last night that they're going the Orange Cassidy route. And that prior to last night was the least intriguing of the options for me. I don't think whoever Omega's facing here is going to take the title off of him, but the possibility of, him and Pac, which we've seen before, but I would not mind.
And Pac defeated Kenny Omega.
Yeah. And I think there's that built-in story, but with Omega just volunteering all of that in doing the build himself and saying, hey, this is a foregone conclusion, let's make it happen. Oh, I think that's a pretty significant tip of the hat. Yeah.
Yep.
But when I saw Cassidy out there, the interaction between those two, I enjoyed more than I thought. And here's what's going to make it different. If this is taking place in Dailey's place with your wrestlers in the audience and a small amount of fans, I'm not as intrigued. But hearing the response that Cassidy got last night and hearing that you're going to have pretty much a capacity Dailey's there, I think honestly, if for nothing else, for the fan reaction and the fan response, I think this is a match I want to see now.
Yeah, let's put the news right out there. I mean, we'll throw it in there. That was a great segue. AEW says they are going to run a full house on May 30th for Double or Nothing at Dailey's place, and they can run 5,500 at the building. They had possibly 3,000 roughly at the show last night. So a full house of 5,500, no wrestlers there anymore, getting actual fans ringside, bonkers. I'm telling you, that Cassidy Omega match will be hot. Cassidy shouldn't win. It should be Omega, but it will be a hot match.
And as I am more intrigued in the actual wrestling between Pac and Omega, I don't think you're going to draw that crowd response as you would a fan favorite like Orange Cassidy. So I think with that being considered, I think that's the route you got to go now.
Okay. That is the men's rankings for the heavyweight championship. Let's talk women's. The number one contender is still Brit Baker, DMD. I had to tell my daughter last night, my younger daughter, who's been to the dentist already once, I said, you see that young lady with the dark hair? She actually also works on teeth. She is a real-life dentist. What? And then my older daughter tried to trick her and says, if you go in there, she might want to wrestle you. No, she's not going to wrestle you. Come on. Baker, DMD, the number one ranked contender at 8-1. Thunder Rosa at 9-2. Ty Conte at 10-3 in the third spot. Nyla Rose at 7-2 in the fourth, and then again Red Velvet 6-1, the number 5 contender to the champion Hikaru Shida, only 3-0. Really, I don't think there was any movement from last week on this one.
No, and I think it's time for Britt Baker. I really do. Just from what we've seen in the ring, but also you just sold it right there. You sold it right there with, what you told your daughters. I mean, you want a face of the company. You want a face of that women's division. Yeah. You've got a very talented in-ring wrestler who's also a dentist. I mean, I think that is, as AEW is looking to cultivate their AEW original talent, I don't know of anybody else in the women's division that makes any more sense to hang that hat on than Britt Baker does right now. Absolutely.
It's time. Let's talk tag teams. And we'll get into the results of last night's show. But the current champions, the Young Bucks, the number one contenders, the unretired or never retired SCU, Christopher Daniels and Francois Kazarian, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus. My daughter also liked the fact that there was a guy that thinks he's a dinosaur. Jurassic Express. The Varsity Blondes, number 3 tag team, and the acclaimed number 4 with the definitely taller and definitely more muscular Russell Wilson doing the raps. And then the number 5 team, FTR. I am ready for SCU to go one-on-one in a tag match against the Young Bucks.
It'll be a good story. And, we've also got the storyline coming out of it of them having to split up if they lose. And I think that's the right things are going, just because I don't see them taking it off of the Bucks right now. But that's an intriguing storyline as well, too. Them going their separate ways, and I think there's stories for both guys in the singles division. That's a story that I'm looking forward to AEW telling.
Okay, let's talk about Blood and Guts from last night. A big night, a very big night. Really, I mean, there was so much going on. Britt Baker was in action. Britt Baker with another win. She stays the number one contender. there's a couple other things I'm going to talk about. There was an announcement as well that Yuji Nagata will be next week for the first time ever on outside of Japanese soil, getting a title shot against the New Japan Pro Wrestling Global U.S. Champion, Jon Moxley, who has apparently held the belt for a couple of years.
Yeah, this is fun, and I think this is good placement for it. I think that if you try to blow this up and try to make this a pay-per-view match, I think that there's a little bit of a disconnection there between a lot of your AEW audience, but this as something announced a week out for next week's AEW, I think it seems intriguing and it seems important to your casual AEW fan without trying to hype it for a pay-per-view. I like this move.
4-way tag team eliminator match. The winner earns the future tag team title match. It was the top 4 contenders: SCU, Jurassic Express, Varsity Blondes, The Acclaimed. The winners of the match, SCU, still just on fire right now, heading right towards the Young Bucks.
And my goodness, how much of that fire started when Christopher Daniels came to your aid, did a run-in on the finale of the PWR draft?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all he was doing was sticking up for the truth. And that's really what he was doing, standing up for the truth.
And I think you can see that it's paid off for him.
It's paid off for myself as well. Your 2020-2021 PWR draft winner. So, again, that parade next year in Dallas, where I get coronated, crowned, whatever you want to call it, it's going to happen.
Wait a minute. Isn't 2020-21 like 2,000 years in the future?
Yes, probably. Yes. I mean, you're just thinking way too hard on it.
Yeah.
Let's talk the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes against QT Marshall and the Factory with Arn Anderson on Cody Rhodes' side. Your thoughts on how this match went down?
I think it went fine. You know, QT looked good. I really liked that stretch there where he's trying to steal everybody under the sun's finishing moves. It was a nice little minute stretch where he's going for, he went for a tombstone. We saw like a tombstone reverse 4 times. That was pretty entertaining. But no, I mean, him kicking out of Cody's finisher, but ultimately tapping out. I think it was a very solid booking for QT. QT looked good, and Cody got the win, which I think is the way it needed to go down.
A tag team match that wasn't a tag team match that was a tag team match. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley against the team of Kenny Omega and Michael Tozawa. Did I say his last name right? I might have said his name wrong, and I apologize if I said his name wrong.
I think you got it.
Nakazawa, sorry.
Isn't that what you said?
Don Callis says that Kenny's not here. Kenny attacks him as they're coming to the ring. Then Kenny leaves him in there for Moxley and Kingston to get the win. But then Kenny comes back with the Buenos Hermanos and the Young Bucks wearing somebody's curtains. Tony kept yelling out, "That looks like somebody's drapes."
That's a pretty good. That's about right.
Tony getting a little bold with the language last night.
He said the S word last night.
Yeah, and I don't mean salami either.
Yeah, Tony was wound up.
Also announced for next week in a promo at the corner of the cage as they're getting us all set up, the best man, Miro, says, "You know what? If you got a championship, you got trouble." And Darby Allin, I don't care if you got thrown down a flight of stairs. By the way, that segment with Scorpio Sky and All Ego Ethan Page, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And what a good pairing Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page has ended up being. We've been critical in the past of AEW putting everybody in stables or putting everybody in tag teams, but I think they've really struck gold with both of these guys. And what an absolute course correction and reset they've done on Miro.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has got a match with Darby Allin next week for the TNT Championship.
Yeah, I think you go ahead and make it happen. I mean, Darby's got a good reason to not be at 100% now.
Yep.
And Darby, as entertaining of a fighting champion as he's been, and as great of a champion as he's been, you can make the case that he's such an attraction that he doesn't need that belt. And, Darby's also got Sting right now too. So Darby being the attraction he is, having Sting, I think that belt benefits Miro much more so at this juncture. And I mean, when I'm watching it last night,
and it's got to be a brutal beating. It's got to be leaving Darby laying for 2-3
and
weeks.
when I'm watching Miro and when I'm watching him talking about going after that and going after all the titles, I mean, I'm seeing Rusev right there. That is picking up where serious Rusev left off. Not that we didn't enjoy Rusev Day, but this is, Rusev just coming off of that Tank era type of stuff.
Rusev. Exactly. That's a great way to label him.
Yeah, and I think that you just
you know what this is, Matthew? Can I make a music analogy for you? And tell me if you understand it. Folks that are listening here, comment on the threads here. This is Death Magnetic from Metallica instead of all the radio-friendly Metallica. This is the album that should have happened after Injustice for All. This is the Miro we should have got after Tank Rusev.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, here's the thing. I mean, he's talented and he's likable, and Rusev Day worked, and it was a surprise, and it was a really
Out on the radio worked for people too, but it was just too user-friendly.
Exactly. And I think a lot of what happened was that's what they tried to transition to the initial AEW run. And that's fine to kind of go off into that, a little bit here. And here's the thing. Throughout the years, whatever they did with Kane was always a degree removed from going back to this terrifying Kane.
Yeah.
And regardless of the
you could say the same about Lashley too. The Lashley that they brought back with, the feud that he had, that involved his sister or his wife or whatever it was. And then, the other feuds that he had along with Miro and then, Lana. But then they gave us brutal destroy you, Lashley.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I think they've done a really, really good course correction with Miro. And I think they need to go ahead and just capitalize that on next week, which, I know you've got the Moxley match, but I think this TNT title match needs to close the show.
I think so too. And no, the Moxley one should not close the show. Make it top of the hour, between hour 1 and 2. But no, you put your belt at the top of your show.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's talk Blood and Guts. The Inner Circle, Jericho, Hager, Ortiz, Santana, Guevara, The Pinnacle, Wheeler, Harwood, MJF, Spears, Wardlow, Tully Blanchard on the outside. I want to say that I liked and didn't like, but I liked the fact that Shivani said, Tully Blanchard was in the first one of these. They called it a War Games match without calling a War Games match. Super clever. Super clever.
I went back and forth with it. The first time I heard it, I didn't really like it. And then the second and third time, it grew on me. And it's like, all right, I like the fact that, you are acknowledging the lineage and acknowledging so many people that are on that show, from Shivani to Arn to Tully, all of those people that were involved.
All those people that have been in those matches.
In the concept. So, my takeaway from it is they very cleverly, and what I think they did well was they used it as a synonym for War Games. It wasn't like, they were in something kind of like this or this, that, or the other. They used it as a synonym, and they kept that direct lineage.
And again, JR even called those matches back in the day.
Yeah, and I want to say, I mean, this was. I
don't even think it was JR at that point. I think it was just Jim Ross.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, you've talked about what WWE's done with the NXT adoption of War Games, and
it's not bad. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's not bad, but it's the same type of critique that you have, with Hell in a Cell now, with how tight WWE is as far as what you can do to accentuate the match. I.e., no blading, you do lose a little bit of some of those storytelling elements. That was not the case with Blood.
We'll get into it here in a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. We don't need to go, piece by piece, spot by spot. We're not going to do that. But let's talk about the fact that Pinnacle had the advantage. So they started off with the one-man advantage, and then it went back and forth until Jericho was the last one to enter. I liked the Inner Circle being dressed the same. I enjoyed, and I thought it was a little nod to what was going to happen, the Pinnacle wearing a lot of white. Do you know why they were wearing white?
Shows that blood.
Shows that crimson mask. Because both members of FTR just juiced. MJF juiced. I mean, I didn't see if Spears had any, but really the blood was flowing from Pinnacle.
Yeah. No, you had probably about, what do you think? 65-70% of the participants there, bleeding in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Not counting Cody earlier in the night, which I'm still not sure where that came from. But
well, it was Blood and Guts. That was the name of the show.
Yeah. My goodness, and I'll have to go back, and I know we just had the women's match not too long ago, which was which was very graphic, but one of the more graphic matches I think I've ever seen on free TV.
Yeah. Holy smokes. I think it was Dax was the one that opened it up. It was either Dax or Cash, but I believe it was Dax. He was juiced instantly. I mean, Sammy got him going real good, and he left a couple spots on the mat. I mean, there was corners that belonged to him.
Yeah. And I want to say, I mean, not just violence, but just overall one of the higher profile, bigger matches of importance. I feel like that you've ever really given away on TV across really any promotion.
Yeah, that was a pay-per-view match. That was a pay-per-view main event. Absolutely. Yeah. But that's okay. We'll wait to see what the numbers are. We'll wait to see what the fan response was. The fans in the building, again, we said it was close to 3,000 roughly. We'll wait for those attendance numbers to come out. But they made a huge difference as well. Matthew, talk to us about what the fans looked like and sounded like.
Yeah, very, very noticeable in the final match. It was interesting. I mean, I could have been them progressively getting, more excited, or maybe kind of a change in miking as the night progressed. But
yeah, the miking during Omega's was terrible. There was an echo through Omega.
Yeah. Initially it didn't seem to, have that much of an effect. But my goodness, as the night progressed and as we got to the main event, I mean, it sounded like you had a building full of people. I would say it was that main event was better sounding than anything I heard at WrestleMania.
Yeah, honestly, I thought the same thing. And WrestleMania was fine. I enjoyed WrestleMania. Yeah. But let us talk about the final moments of this match. Tully got the cage opened. MJF runs out and runs up the cage. Jericho follows. Spots on the top. They changed War Games into a little bit of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Really, at the end, MJF yells, "I'll throw him off this cage if you don't give up now." Sammy yells out, "We give up." That's fine. Trying to protect Jericho. And then at the end, MJF throws Jericho off anyways into the stage. I don't care that it looked like it was padded underneath. I don't care about that. We know what it is. The man's almost 50. I mean, him and I are just about the same age. And that was about a 20 to 25-foot fall. So what? Amazing spot.
And, I give them credit. I mean, they did put work on making the crash pad look as, legitimate as they could.
It looked metal, but it was painted. But so what?
No, WWE, it seems like in recent years, it's just kind of given up on that. It's like, it's a crash pad. It's a crash pad. I like the touch of, the painted metal. I do. And
it steel steps paint look is what it did. Those little jagged lines.
And it served the purpose. It served the purpose to get Jericho off of TV for a while. And
because I think Fozzie's hitting the road too. I think they're ready to get to work.
Yeah. And how many close-up tight shots of MJF atop that cage did you have?
Yeah.
That's what you need to take note of. MJF, who, kind of had some questionable booking over the last year. It wasn't too long ago that MJF really wasn't doing much, and he was in the audience adding to the sound there at Dailey's place. MJF standing atop your cage, multiple shots of him to close the show. I mean, that is AEW making a legitimate professional wrestling star right there.
Yep. Jericho doing his job on the way out the door to possibly go hit the road with his band. So overall, this show was exactly what we needed, expected, hoped, and wanted. Okay? We'll wait and see what the numbers look like for TV. We'll wait and see what the attendance was for the building. They are now building towards Double or Nothing at the end of May during Memorial Day weekend. Matthew Thomas, I hear that you might try to get in a building. Do you think they'll let you in Jacksonville?
They'll probably let me in some type of building in Jacksonville.
Gotcha. All right. Well,
I don't know if it's going to be the building where they are having a professional wrestling contest at, but I don't think I've burned enough bridges that everywhere in Jacksonville will disallow me, but it's possible.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that was very AEW heavy, but we had to do it, and it was worth it, and it was fun, and it was enjoyable. Tomorrow, Matthew Thomas, if you haven't yet, get those A&E documentaries under your belt. Get in Randy Macho Man Savage. Get in the Hidden Treasures with Jerry the King Lawler. We will be talking about it tomorrow morning. Plus, set you up for SmackDown and talking about a little bit of Impact from tomorrow night as well. Wait, what day is it? We're Thursday morning.
Here's the thing. I might have to get those treasure hunters to go find my belt. I don't know where my belt's at. I might have to put them on that task.
Yep. So I want you to get those under your belt. Get them watched because we'll be talking about them tomorrow morning with Matthew Thomas and the man they call Meathead. So for Matthew, who's got Matthew's 20. Wait, say it again.
Oh, you talking about Matthew to watch of 2021?
Yeah, who is Matt Riddle?
Yeah.
I almost said Matt Sydal.
Who's Matt Riddle? Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of people watching him now based on my suggestion.
I almost think that I enjoy just getting it wrong to make you say it right. So yeah, Matthew for Matthew on Matthew's 2021. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. So for Matthew Thomas, on the man they call Meathead. Hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.